Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk to you guys about the 5 new uniforms that we got with this latest update. So let's jump right into it, guys. We have 5 new uniforms: Punisher, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Elektra, and Carnak. Let's go and see exactly what changes with these skills. We're first going to look at it from this page, and then we're going to jump into the skill preview to see how they look differently. So grenade throw just will animate differently. There's no actual text changes. However, wild shot does have a text change. It now offers up to 16% increased physical damage when it's cast for 7 seconds, which is not bad, 16%. And then smoke operation applies a 30% chance to miss for 3 seconds. Thank you for the dimension rift. The uniform itself does look pretty cool. I really wish that they had gotten John Bernthal's face animation better, because it just looks like a squinty bad guy ruffian thug. He doesn't look like anyone specific, but we'll check it out. Please do make note, guys, thank you for the dimension rift, that this uniform has a terrible uniform bonus, so you will be buying it primarily for the way that it looks and the way that the skills change in both their animation and their effect. So yes, Punisher is getting 2 pretty good changes to his skills. His 3rd skill is getting a physical damage buff, and his 5th skill is getting a 30% chance to miss debuff on the opponent. 30% chance to miss for 3 seconds is pretty decent, and I don't think there's a way to resist that other than your regular resist debuff or dispel debuff like we have with Wasp, Carnak's uniform, and others. So the other skills remain the same for Punisher, so we're not going to cover them, but we are going to cover his 3rd skill, which is now a partial iframe, as you guys can see. After the jump there, the clones will stop attacking, and he does become immune to damage through the iframe that way. The walk is pretty cool, it's pretty swag-tastic, and it's very reminiscent of Elsa's, I believe, 2nd skill, where she does kind of a jump, barrel roll over to the side. This is a very good movement skill, and it also does give him that buff that we were talking about of up to 16%. The real gravy comes from his new 5th skill. Punisher's old 5th skill is kind of trash. He just loads up a rocket launcher on his shoulder and he blasts it. It is ranged attack for a combat hero, but it's got a long animation, it's got pretty sad damage, and it roots him. This one is totally different. It does root him, however, it's a full iframe. This animation is fantastic. It looks so cool. I love the smoke with the bodies kind of filtering through in a hazy fashion. I love the little IX yellow animation. Everything about this skill is Punisher. It's deception, it's planning, it's preparation, and it's execution, both in what he's doing and what the end result is, your execution. We still have to wait on and see on the numbers, but this looks like a pretty high damage AoE skill, which is something that Punisher was missing, and he was missing survivability, so it does give him iframes. Honestly, I don't think it's enough to really catapult the character into any kind of meaningful place in the game, but if you love Punisher, then you probably should pick this uniform up, because this is his best uniform to date. It does beat out his previously best uniform, which was War Journal, and it's definitely much better than the one I have, Punisher Noir, and of course it's still better than his default uniform look. Jumping over to our next uniform, Luke Cage, we do see that there are 2 skilled changes. Backup Call will still have the increased physical defense that the 3rd skill has, but there will be an extra added benefit to it. And then his 5th skill, Squeak Christmas, will now apply a stun. So that's pretty interesting. Let's check out what those changes do. The only other change that Luke Cage's new Netflix uniform offers is a guard break on a different skill. So it gives him a little bit more crowd control for Shadowlands, but that's probably not the best reason to buy it. The best reason to buy this uniform, aside from the hoodie and the iconicness of it, is this skill right here. If you didn't notice who that is, that's Jessica Jones. He's calling his girlfriend over, and she's throwing a taxi at the enemies that he then kicks. That's epic. That's amazing, guys. This is one of the best animations in the game, bar none. To have another character come in and help you out with an attack, let alone the character that you're most famously tied to, this is just incredible. If they don't reenact this on the Defenders TV show, I'm going to be kind of mad. It still offers the physical defense that we're used to getting from this attack, but instead of the attack just being a pathetic scream like it is with the other uniforms, it actually does damage this time. So that is meaningful. That does add quite a bit of DPS to Luke Cage's rotation, because he now has 5 skills that deal damage as opposed to just 4. In addition to that, his 5th skill now does offer that 3-second stun, which is really good. Sorry, it's his 4th skill. Right there, you can see Sweet Christmas has a stun for 3 seconds, and that is quite good for Shadowlands. Overall, again, I think that this uniform is not fantastic. I don't think that it's really going to propel Luke Cage, even at tier 2, into any more of a meta standpoint than he is at now. I don't think he's moved anywhere with the addition of this new uniform. But if you do love the character to bits, it's not a bad uniform to pick up, and the addition of Jessica Jones is fantastic thematically and from a comic book lover standpoint of view. Moving on to Elektra, her uniform doesn't change any of her skills, so it's a pretty easy uniform to decide whether or not you want to buy, because you don't need to go into the skill preview, you just need to look at the effects of the skill. Now first you want to look at Elektra's skill Throwing Size, because that's the skill that will trigger the proc or trigger the effect of her uniform. So when we go over to Elektra and we look with the new portrait, by the way, she's looking quite snazzy. Her Throwing Size is her 3rd skill. It has an 8-second cooldown, so you can bring that down to 4 seconds. Keep in mind that Throwing Size is also an iframe, so it's a very important skill to keep in your rotation. So when she uses that skill, which is on a 4-second cooldown, she will activate 15% crit damage and 10% all speed. That's a very good bonus. That will make it easier for her to string together her iframes. She'll take damage less often, and she'll do more damage. And because that's on a 2-second cooldown, and because the buffs last for 5 seconds, you can have this buff up all the time. So provided you're good with your skill rotations, just by buying this uniform, you're getting a permanent 15% crit damage and 10% all speed buff to your Elektra. That's pretty powerful. Now it doesn't change any of her skills, but she got a lot of recent changes, and you still have the uniform bonuses to go through that can give her a bonus of up to 20% all attack, 20% all defense, and then all those other secondary stats that you can roll for. Again, overall, I don't think this is a necessary uniform. I don't urge you to buy it because it doesn't move Elektra up anywhere closer to the top of the speed hero ladder, and it doesn't move her anywhere closer to the top of the meta. But it is a cool uniform for people who really like Elektra. Next up, we have Carnak, and Carnak was one that we were highly anticipating because of how bad the character was or is right now. His base uniform, his base skill set is just terrible. Very little crowd control, no iframes, no survivability. Really bad. Then we got the news that we were getting this badass uniform, and people were really excited. However, when we saw the initial impression of just one skill being changed, people thought, how much can they really do with one skill? Is it really going to be that much of a game changer? Because his uniform bonus is really not that great. It's not bad, but it's not that great. And because it's on a 15-second cooldown, it leaves him vulnerable for 13 more seconds, which is really bad. However, when we take a look at Wave of Wisdom, we get a wave of text with how much this skill actually does. And it actually brings a whole new mechanic into the game that we didn't know we could get. What does it bring, guys? Well, when you cast Wave of Wisdom, which is his 3rd skill, it has a 100% chance to remove the area where an enemy has placed a special effect. So this will actually remove active effects in the game. If Groot has a heal shield down, if Wasp has her, barrier down, if the Ancient One has popped a heal bubble, if Doctor Strange has his time freeze on the ground, because if you don't know, if you're playing PvP and Doctor Strange casts his time freeze over here and you're not in the vicinity but you run into it, you will become frozen. So when he casts this, any surrounding, and it's quite a large area of effect, any surrounding skills that have some kind of buff, like the ones I've just mentioned, HP recovery, time freeze, shield, barrier, all damage immune, reflect, will all be debuffed, removed for 1 second. That means Destroyer's Reflect of energy damage. That means Luke Cage's physical reflect will be removed. Dormammu's Reflect, Odin's Barrier, Odin's Immunity, Doctor Strange's Reflect, all of those will be gone for 1 second. And it stuns for 1 second. And it gives Carnak a 2% or 2 second all debuff. So he debuffs himself again. It gives him Ignore Defense, which was on the original skill, so they didn't lose that. And it increases his dodge rate. This is a mouthful, guys. Let's go and check out just how wide the area of effect is so you guys can get an idea for how this could be used in PvP, because that's really where the value of it is. So let's say we have an effect going on. Boom. That's humongous. That's a giant area of effect. I'm hitting all of the clones almost with, you know, very little effort to bunch them together. They're on opposite sides, and almost all of them are taking up the area of this skill. The animation is amazing. It looks beautiful, and the power of this skill, the potential of this skill is really important. This could become, or this could make Carnak a meta character. It could make him a very important part of the meta. Now, we will have to see just how it plays out. Of course, playing him manually in stuff like Shadowlands King of the Hill will be a huge boon to the character, because he will be able to directly counter a lot of meta characters that I've mentioned so far. All the healers, all the freezers, all of the immune and shield wielders and reflect people. But on autoplay, we have to see just how often this uniformed Carnak casts that skill, because without it, he's basically a fish out of the water. He's dead. With it, he can be a very powerful tool, and he can take down some of the most powerful characters and the most powerful character in the game. So again, it's a potentially very strong uniform, but I won't recommend it, and I can't recommend it just wholeheartedly for anyone who has Carnak at 6 stars, because it really just has a niche use. It's not a PvE uniform. It's for player versus player interactions. If you want to dominate timeline, then yeah, pick it up. If not, you can live without it. Lastly, we have Iron Fist's Iron Fist Marvel Netflix uniform. This is the quote-unquote immortal Iron Fist as far as his 5th skill goes. Let's check out what they've changed about it, because they have changed quite a few things. If we go over to the actual skill layout, we can see that some of his skills have a pretty interesting new interaction with the character. And despite the fact that his uniform does give the same effect, as you can see there, 30% below, recover 10%, and become invincible for 5 seconds, they have changed 3 of his skills. So Pressure Point Jab, if you see here, there's basically nothing for Pressure Point Jab. They've changed Pressure Point Jab to give him immunity for 3 seconds, which is very strong. And it's given him damage accumulation that then turns into an attack buff of 4% for each 1% of the damage that he receives. So basically he becomes immune and he starts absorbing damage, and then from that absorbed damage he gets a huge damage buff. So he basically gets an immunity and a damage buff in one skill, which is fantastic. This is what Sharon Rogers has, Black Panther. This is a fantastic skill. Kunlun Focus, sorry, now offers ignore defense as well as dodge. If you go over here, these ones change. This is all defense minus to the enemy and dodge to him. And then this one is just a taunt and dodge. Now we have ignore defense and dodge, which is probably the best of the 3. And then it also changes his 5th skill, Immortal Iron Fist, which is kind of a shitty skill for the other uniforms. And it changes the animation of that one greatly. It doesn't change any of the text, but it changes the animations. Let's go and check out just how much it's different. The big reveal is Iron Fist's new 5th skill. And before we get to that, guys, can I just point out how cool it looks that just one of his arms is glowing? One of his hands? The Iron Fist is glowing, guys. I love that. Let's check out his new 5th skill. Holy shit. I want to see that again. So, full iframe, AoE damage, lots of hits. What else can I say about this? And it buffs his crit rate. It's only 3%. But wow, guys. This is a game changer. This is potentially going to bring Iron Fist back into the conversation of, you know, best combat hero. Especially given that he is still a very strong character with his tier 2 passive. He gains a lot of damage with the guaranteed crit, and then he gains some survivability with the guaranteed dodge. I don't think, personally, that he's going to overtake Moon Knight as the best combat hero in the game, especially for alliance battle related purposes, but it is going to make him relevant once again. I think this uniform is the uniform out of all 5 that has the most value at first glance and the most value for PvE content. It's going to make, this uniform will make Iron Fist a monster in Shadowlands. He'll probably be able to clear any level for you at tier 2 with this uniform. He'll easily steamroll stage 25 with no leadership. I am almost certain of that. Now, Potentially, Carnak's uniform has a higher ceiling because of the PvP aspect to it, but in terms of PvP value, I think it's unequivocally the #1 choice to go with Iron Fist's uniform if you want just one uniform from this update. The other three, Elektra, Luke Cage, and Punisher, I'm kind of wishy-washy about. They just don't do enough for the characters, and the characters aren't powerful enough without the uniforms to really need or necessitate that extra 10%. If you're in love with these characters, go and buy their uniforms, invest in them, build them up, try to get a higher score on the character growth ranking list, because I think a lot of people are really excited about that and they love to see where they land, you know, from top to bottom. But overall, guys, I cannot recommend any of these uniforms as a must buy, aside from, for PvP aspects, Carnak, and then for PvE aspects, Iron Fist. But even still, guys, I don't think that any of these are a must buy, because we still have the newest update, update 3, on the horizon. I don't know when it's going to be, maybe in a month, maybe in a month and a half, but still, guys, update 3 is an anniversary update. It's the biggie. So if you're really hoarding crystals, maybe don't get any this time. Maybe don't get any uniforms. So let me know what you guys think of these uniforms. Let me know which one you are most excited to buy, and let me know what content you want to see next to talk about from this latest 2.9.5 update, guys. We covered a lot in the live stream, and thanks to all the bros who showed up, but we still have a lot more to get into in a lot more depth. So I can't wait to hear from you guys, and of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.